Good morning and welcome to Auckland with the Scotland team. For everyone that's watching back in www.scottishrugby.org and everyone watching on the RBS Facebook account, you're very welcome. We're delighted to be doing our final live stream here from New Zealand. The three so far have been great fun, and I'm sure this one will be the same. I'm delighted to be joined by Max Evans on my far right. Max has 23 tries for Scotland, 23 caps and 3 tries. Nathan Hines, 76 caps, Nathan, and 2 tries. So the format for today is we have our main team announcement at 9 o'clock, and after 9 o'clock we hope to be joined by one of the coaching staff who will give you an update on who's been selected for the forthcoming game against England. So between now and then we'd like to have a bit of banter with the boys and ask some of the questions that you've been sending in. We've had a raft of questions, as you can imagine, looking forward to this weekend's game against England. So we'll maybe start with some questions on that, guys. Maybe the first question which comes in from Morgan. Morgan asks, I guess morale may have dipped slightly after the Argentina game. How do you pick yourselves up after a defeat like that, especially with such a big game coming up? Maybe Max, to you first up.
Yeah, firstly, hi everyone, back home especially. I guess the main thing is you've got to try and take the positives out of the game that you played. There were a lot of positives and try and focus on that, and try not to dwell too much in the negatives and get yourself down. That's kind of what I've been doing personally, focusing on the positives, what we did well as a team, and try and think about that and getting a big performance against England.
Yeah, I was pretty much raging after the game. Every time I shut my eyes to go to sleep, I was haunted by the Argentinian try. But I think that after a day or so, it sort of takes the edge off it, and you realise that you have to look towards this week's game. Otherwise, we're going to be in a similar predicament. So I think the guys are pretty good at changing from last week to this week.
I guess if there's ever a game to bounce back from, we've got a cracker this weekend against England.
Yeah, I think it's one that all Scots want to win, no matter what form the Scotland team's having, and what better way to do it, with your backs up against the wall and maybe put England out if we get the right result. So there's a massive incentive for us.
It's an interesting point. Roy Galanders sent a question in on Facebook, and Rory asked, what was the feeling just after the draw was made when you knew you'd be facing England in the pool stages of Rugby World Cup 2011? Max, do you remember sitting down and hearing the draw for the first time and hearing that you would be playing England?
Yeah, it was more all the teams. I was just being my first World Cup. I was just excited, at the thought of playing any team in the World Cup. So yeah, obviously there's that added incentive, being the old enemy, seeing that, and also how the run of games looked. The order it was, having almost the 2 huge clashes, at the end. So I got very excited straight away, and it's continued through the tournament. And given the situation we're in now, it's even more exciting.
Yeah, when you look at the draw, we thought that all the teams that we had in our pool, we were able to beat, to have success against, and obviously it hasn't gone that way, didn't go our way last week, but saying that, it's still in with a good chance if we play well.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the interesting things is the way that the pool has flowed. We started against Romania, then against Georgia, then Argentina, and there's been a huge support following Scotland wherever they played. And maybe you just want to talk about for a second how that was in Invercargill and Wellington. It was a pretty loud place to be in Wellington.
Wellington was great. The Argentinian supporters were in full voice as well. Not for most of the game, but for the last 2 minutes they were very loud. But the support that's followed us everywhere has been immense. Even the Invercargill being so far south, and not very many people live there. They were really going towards us every time we're in the street. They stopped us and said g'day. So we can't fault the support that we've had.
I think also I've been surprised. I've really enjoyed how much kind of ancestry there's been in this country that kind of traces back to Scotland. So many people coming up and say, "Oh, my great granddad was Scottish," or even as close as my granddad was Scottish, or I have family that live in Scotland. especially down in Invercargill, there's a big mass of kind of Scottish ancestry. So yeah, it was a really great feeling being a part of that.
We were in the gym yesterday and a Maori fella came up to me. He goes, "Oh yeah, I'm half Scottish." And I was like, he doesn't really look half Scottish, but apparently he was, yeah. He's what they qualify to play for Scotland, but...
We'll get him signed up.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the interesting things in Invercargill, you developed a friendship, I think, with the mayor of Invercargill. He seemed to have a real affection for you, Max.
Yeah, no, I was lucky enough to celebrate my birthday down in Invercargill, so the mayor very kindly gave me his autobiography as a birthday present, and what a character he is. Like, we were lucky enough to get a comedy sketch from him, which I was a little unsure about before entering into, but he brought the house down. It was so funny, just kind of his stories and his life almost. So yeah, I can't. The book's been passed around. I've kind of been a bit busy to sit down and have a read of it, but I think it's been passed around. Some people are reading it already, so excited on reading that.
There's been a number of questions coming in on Facebook about the intensity of the Kiwis in terms of how much they love their rugby. It's really been noticeable whilst we've been here that everyone is up for the World Cup and everyone's keen to support Scotland whenever we get out there and go to training venues. Have you been blown away by the amount of support that have been there from both Scots supporters but just generally from Kiwis?
Yeah, the national sport is rugby, isn't it? I think it sort of helps define a nation here. It's not just a sport. If the All Blacks are playing well, then the country, it feels good, and especially after what happened in Christchurch, the New Zealand people sort of look to them to give them a bit of happiness, just after a time where it's been quite difficult. So, and you're sort of in a fishbowl here, aren't you? It's not too big. Everyone's eyes are on you. So, I can't imagine the pressure that the ABs would be under, especially home World Cup and being touted to win it. But they're actually playing really good rugby, so it doesn't look like it's been affecting them so far. But I don't think you noticed how intense and how well supported rugby is here until you get here. I think the club we were training at yesterday, not a very good club, like in big club, but there's 64 teams, I think. Yeah. So that's something that we can't emulate in Scotland.
And the facilities were first class.
Yeah, the pitch was great, good change of facilities. So that's how keen they are on rugby. Chuck everything into it.
I think just the other thing as well that I found funny is after an All Blacks game, they seem to, on the TVs out here, they repeat the game almost every day, right up until their next game.
Yeah.
Every time I flick a TV on, it's the last All Blacks game, so it just goes to show.
Every time you flick your TV on, you've got an All Black on TV, hunting something.
Yeah, they're pretty pervasive. But we take the flight up from Invercargill and you get a coffee cup, and on the coffee cup it says Dan Carter. They get everywhere.
Well, that's just after you get your in-flight information from the New Zealand team, and the in-flight magazines cover to cover with All Blacks, and they're everywhere. It's
part of the culture, that's for sure. But just looking at the England game this weekend, remember Joe Adamsdale asks, what's your earliest memory of a Scotland-England game? Earliest memory of a Scotland-England game, Max?
I couldn't pinpoint an exact memory. I think just roughly I used to. Biggest memory is my granddad was Scottish and a very passionate Scot, and I guess just watching kind of early Six Nations games with him and just how mad and crazy he got kind of watching those games, and I think that kind of was my first taste of the passion that goes with Scotland versus England. But that's definitely the biggest memory for me.
Yeah, I'm in a bit of a different position because I didn't grow up in Scotland and didn't play rugby until I was 19. So not many memories of England, Scotland, but one thing you do learn pretty quickly is that there is a lot of history behind it, and since I've been in Scotland, I've seen a lot of stuff before I played, which was didn't know much happen before I played. I've been playing that long, but the passion that there is between them, the rivalry, and obviously when you play in that as well, you learn to appreciate it from a different perspective.
But it's an intense rivalry. I mean, there's interesting comparisons being drawn between New Zealand and the All Blacks, and it's something that's New Zealand and Australia. Growing up in Australia, you of course have seen the Aussies and the All Blacks.
Yeah,
it's quite different.
It is different. Yeah, it's a bit more prickly than Australia and New Zealand. I think Australia and New Zealand like to poke fun at each other and take the mick out of each other, but yeah, it's serious when it's in the rugby park. But I don't think it's as prickly as England Scotland.
Sharon Gibson asks a question on Facebook, and her question is: does playing against the old enemy increase the passion and desire to win for the players? Is it different to playing any other team?
Well, personally, I don't think so. I think in terms of wanting to win the game, it's just like any other game. You want to win every game when you put on a Scotland jersey. So, and there's always that desire. I think the difference is just the kind of hype that comes with it, and that kind of increases. I don't know, the feelings going into the game. I think almost definitely made aware that it's supposed to be seen as a much bigger game. But I think in terms of, as I said, personally, it's just like any other game. I just want to win it, as much as the next game. So
I think subconsciously, like, there is that little bit more of an edge to it. Or for me, as a forward, I think there might be. But I think when I played at Leinster, everyone in the Leinster squad looked forward to the Munster game. There's always one team that you don't want to lose to, and I think obviously it's for Scotland, it's England. But do we put more effort into England preparation than we would any other? No. But I think part of rugby is where you are emotionally and what you're feeling, as well as how you're prepared. So obviously that plays a big part in it.
Interesting question here that's been sent in from Facebook, which is to you, Nathan, which asks: how is the game against England different in a World Cup from your meetings in the Six Nations?
Well, it's the first time on neutral ground, so that'll be different. And in the Six Nations, it's not a do or die affair. It's just for points and for league standing. So we're up against it. We have to score 8 more points than they do. So it's in the Six Nations, don't have that pressure. Apart from that, I don't think there's much different. We prepare probably the same way, and obviously going to the game knowing we're playing England. But apart from the do or die thing hanging over our heads, it's not too much different.
There's huge intensity in this game, and I think part of that's built up by the supporters, but also partly by the media, of course, as well. And how do you make sure that doesn't get into your bubble too much? Do you make sure that you're sort of focused on your own routines and try to stay away from the media? Or do you?
Yeah, well, the media not really gives a chance, so it's not really, they're not putting that much pressure on us. I think most of the pressure that is on ourselves are from people who support us and our families and people back in Scotland and from ourselves. But I think guys are pretty much grounded, aren't they, about the game and know what they have to do.
One of the questions which has come in from sorry.
No.
That's actually